Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive straight in, shall we? Today, we're exploring one of the absolute most frustrating mysteries for anyone who spends time in the gym. Seriously, why do your back muscles stubbornly refuse to grow despite years of sweat, heavy lifting, and just all-around hard work? If you've ever felt like you're putting in maximum effort for, well, minimal results, trust me, you are definitely not alone.
So why does it stay so small? The back is this incredibly complex muscle group, but it suffers from one very unique disadvantage. We simply can't see it in the mirror. It's literally out of sight, out of mind. And for a beginner, or honestly, even for an intermediate lifter, this lack of visual feedback leads to stalled progress, terrible mind-muscle connection, and these repeated training errors that go completely unnoticed for years. But we're going to fix that. Today, we're distilling over 5.5 years of pure trial, error, and heavy gym experience from our source material into actionable science. We're going to unpack the specific mistakes keeping your back small, and more importantly, how to actually fix them so you can finally start building some real muscle.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the stubborn back problem, fixing your training frequency, prioritizing quality over junk volume, mastering mind-muscle intensity, and finally, the deadlift dilemma. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, fixing your training frequency, looking at expectation versus reality. We have to start with a massive programming flaw that almost every beginner falls for, and that's the traditional bro split. The expectation here is that dedicating one entire day, like a brutal 2-hour Monday session, just to your back, will somehow force it to grow. But the reality? Training a muscle group just once a week is highly inefficient. Research from our source actually shows that hitting a muscle group at least twice a week yields vastly superior results. Whether that's through a full body split, an upper-lower routine, or push-pull legs. Think about how the volume breaks down. The science tells us 10 to 20 total sets per week is the sweet spot for a muscle group. But if you cram all 20 sets into a single back day, what happens? By the end of that session, your fatigue absolutely skyrockets, your form starts getting sloppy, and your training quality just tanks. You're essentially just wasting time. Actually, scratch that. You're actively burning yourself out for zero extra gain. On the flip side, dividing those 20 sets across 2 days, doing 10 sets per session, keeps your efficiency and your energy incredibly high. Moving right along to Section 2, quality over junk volume and what we're going to call the limited battery analogy. This brings us to a huge psychological trap. It's human nature to think more is better, right? So you end up doing 5, maybe 6 different back exercises in one workout. But you have to remember the concept of limited energy. You are a human being, not a machine. Your physical battery drains with every single exercise you do. If you spread your limited energy paper thin across 6 different movements, you literally won't have the fuel left to train any single exercise with the actual effort required to stimulate growth. So, instead of desperately trying to hit every conceivable angle with a half-empty battery, you need to simplify the whole shebang. The reality is, you really only need 2 core movement patterns for a successful back day. A vertical pull, like a pull-down or a pull-up, and a horizontal pull, like a row. That's it. If you take your limited energy and give 100% effort to just one exercise in each of these 2 categories, your results are going to skyrocket. It is entirely about quality, not junk volume. Okay, Section 3, mind, muscle, and intensity. Because let's be real, execution is everything. The best program in the world means nothing if your execution is off. Remember how we said earlier that you can't easily see your back? Well, that makes the mind-muscle connection ridiculously difficult. For years, you might just be hoisting weight from point A to point B, using momentum, without your back muscles actually doing the real work. The fix is 3 exact steps. First, intentionally slow down the repetition. Second, pause for just a single second at the peak of the contraction. Really feel the squeeze. And third, slow down the negative or eccentric portion of the lift on the way back. Close your eyes if you have to. This guarantees the load is actually forcing your back to work. Now, once your technique is locked in, you run into the next big hurdle, training intensity. In simple terms, this is how close your set gets to true muscular failure, usually rated on a scale of 1 to 10. Honestly, a lot of gym goers just sort of go through the motions. They stop a set the exact moment it starts to feel a little uncomfortable. But stopping when you simply feel like it, that will not maximize your gains. You are leaving the best results on the table. To truly force your back to grow, you need structure and just immense mental willpower. You've got to form a specific plan before you even step foot in the gym. Track your previous weights and reps so you know exactly what numbers you need to beat. And when you're in the middle of a set, you must willingly enter that uncomfortable zone.
You have to push past the lactic acid burn and the cramping until you hit actual mechanical failure. Training hard is uncomfortable, for sure, but that is exactly where the magic happens.
I absolutely love this thought experiment from the source material to really challenge your perception of failure. 10 crore rupees. That is massive, life-changing money. Next time you want to stop a set just because it burns, ask yourself, if someone offered you a giant mountain of cash right then and there, could you have squeezed out just one more rep? If the answer is yes, well, you didn't actually hit failure, did you? Let that sink in for a second. Which brings us to our final section, number 4, the deadlift dilemma. We need to tackle high fatigue versus low hypertrophy, and this might be a bit controversial for some.
Heavy conventional deadlifts might actually be holding your back growth hostage. Seriously. To understand why, we have to look at the stimulus to fatigue ratio. Basically, this measures how much actual muscle growth an exercise triggers compared to the overall exhaustion it causes in your body. And when strictly evaluating muscle growth, conventional deadlifts have one of the absolute worst stimulus to fatigue ratios of any back exercise out there.
Don't get me wrong, deadlifts are incredible for powerlifting and general strength, but for pure muscle growth, the trade-offs are brutal. Think about it. It requires 30-plus minutes just to warm up and load the bar. It generates massive central nervous system fatigue, increases joint aches, and massively prolongs your recovery. Worst of all, it completely drains your limited physical battery, stealing the energy you desperately need for those targeted vertical and horizontal pulls that actually grow the back. So it all boils down to this incredibly critical question. Are you training to strictly grow muscle, or are you lifting heavy deadlifts just to satisfy your ego and post personal records on Instagram? It's a tough pill to swallow, but recognizing the difference there is exactly what separates stagnant progress from real physical transformation. Bottom line, drop the ego and train smart. By bumping your training frequency to twice a week, ditching the junk volume for high-quality pulls, perfecting your mind-muscle connection, and picking exercises that actually give you a good return on investment without wrecking your nervous system, you will finally force that stubborn back to grow. So heading into your next workout, ask yourself, are you going to keep wondering why your back stays small? Or are you ready to start actually training?